What if I told you that right now you might be killing your own plants without even realizing it? And the worst part is everything you think is helping your garden could actually be destroying it slowly from the inside. Most beginners believe they just need to water more, give more sunlight, and take more care, but that is exactly where things start going wrong. Your plant looks fine for a few days, maybe even a week, and then suddenly the leaves turn yellow. Growth stops, and everything begins to fall apart, and you are left wondering what went wrong. But here is the truth: these are not random problems, these are silent mistakes that almost every beginner makes. And in this video, I am going to show you the 7 most dangerous beginner gardening mistakes that quietly kill your plants. And trust me, mistake number 4 and mistake number 6 are where most people completely lose their garden. So before you try growing anything again, you need to see this. If you have ever tried growing plants before, then you already know how frustrating this can be. You start with excitement, you buy seeds or small plants, and you imagine fresh food growing in your backyard. Every day you check on them, you water them carefully, and for a few days, everything seems fine, maybe even perfect, but then slowly things start to change. The leaves begin to turn yellow, the growth stops or becomes weak, and no matter how much more care you give, nothing seems to fix it, and that is the moment where most beginners start losing confidence. You begin to question yourself. Maybe you think you are doing something wrong. Maybe you feel like gardening is harder than it looks, or maybe you start believing that growing your own food is not for you. But here is the truth that almost nobody tells you: your plants are not failing because you are careless. They are failing because of a few hidden mistakes that most beginners repeat without even knowing. And the worst part is these mistakes do not show instantly. They build up slowly, and by the time you notice it, the damage is already done. Here is what most beginners never realize: plants do not suddenly fail. They give clear warning signs long before anything goes wrong. But the problem is most people do not know how to read those signs. And even worse, the things you believe are helping your plants, like watering more, giving extra sunlight, or checking them again and again, can actually make the situation worse without you noticing. This is where things become dangerous, because you keep repeating the same actions thinking you are doing the right thing while your plant is slowly getting weaker day by day. But once you understand what is really happening, everything starts to make sense. And that is exactly what we are going to do in this video. I will break down the 7 most common beginner mistakes in a simple step-by-step way, so you can spot them, fix them, and avoid them completely. And as you go through each one, you might realize you have already made one of these mistakes, and that is a good thing, because once you see it clearly, you can fix it immediately. And there is one mistake in this list that almost nobody talks about, but it silently destroys more plants than anything else. So let us start with mistake number 1 and fix your garden from the root level. The first mistake that quietly destroys most beginner plants is overwatering, and this is where things get dangerous because it feels like the right thing to do. You see your plant every day, and you think it needs more care, more water, more attention, but what you do not see is what is happening under the soil. When you water too often, the soil stays constantly wet, and the roots, which need oxygen to survive, slowly begin to suffocate, and once roots cannot breathe, the plant starts dying from below. Even though it may still look fine on the surface for a few days, this is why many beginners get confused, because the damage is invisible at first, and by the time the leaves turn yellow, it is already too late. So here is the simple fix that can save your plants immediately. Stop watering on a fixed schedule and start checking the soil instead. Put your finger into the soil, and if the top layer feels dry, then water it, but if it is still moist, then wait. This one habit alone can completely change your results. But here is where it gets even worse, because most beginners who overwater also make the second mistake, which is choosing the wrong plants. Many people start with plants that look interesting or popular without realizing that some plants are much harder to grow than others. And when those plants struggle, beginners lose confidence quickly and assume they are doing everything wrong, when in reality, they just chose the wrong starting point. So instead of making your journey harder, start with simple, fast-growing plants like lettuce, spinach, herbs, or tomatoes, because these plants are more forgiving and give you visible progress early, and that early success is what keeps you motivated to continue. But even if you choose the right plants, there is another silent mistake that can ruin everything, and that is poor soil quality. Most beginners think soil is just dirt, but in reality, soil is the foundation of your entire garden. If your soil cannot hold moisture properly, or drain excess water, or provide nutrients, then your plants will struggle no matter how much effort you put in. And this is where many beginner gardens fail without understanding why, because they skip this step or use low-quality soil and expect good results. But here is the truth: good soil makes everything easier. It supports root growth, improves water balance, and gives your plants the nutrients they need to grow strong. So using a simple mix with compost and proper drainage can solve many problems before they even begin. But now, here comes a mistake that stops growth completely, and that is lack of sunlight, because plants need energy and sunlight is their main source of energy. Without enough light, your plants become weak, stretched, and unhealthy. They start growing tall and thin instead of strong and balanced, and eventually they stop growing altogether. And the worst part is many beginners do not realize this because they place their plants in spots that look good but do not receive enough direct sunlight. So always make sure your plants are getting at least 6 hours of sunlight every day, or adjust your plant choices based on your environment. But even with good sunlight and soil, there is another mistake that quietly reduces your results, and that is overcrowding plants. This happens when beginners try to grow too many plants in a small space, thinking they will get more food, but instead the plants start competing with each other for sunlight, water, and nutrients, and instead of growing strong, all of them become weak and underdeveloped. So spacing is not just a small detail, it is a critical factor for healthy growth, because one well-spaced healthy plant will always produce better results than several crowded weak ones. And now comes a mistake that almost nobody talks about, but it is one of the biggest reasons plants fail, and that is ignoring early warning signs. Plants always communicate through their leaves and growth patterns: yellow leaves, drooping stems, slow development. These are not random issues, they are signals telling you something is wrong, but beginners often ignore these signs or hope they will fix themselves, and by the time they take action, the problem has already become serious. So building the habit of checking your plants daily, even for a minute, can help you catch problems early and fix them before they get worse. And finally, the last mistake, which is the most important one, is giving up too early, because most beginners expect fast results. They want to see growth within a few days, and when that does not happen, they lose motivation and stop caring for their plants. But the truth is, plant growth takes time and consistency. In the beginning, growth is slow and almost invisible, but once the roots are established, everything starts to speed up. And if you quit during the slow phase, you never reach the rewarding part. So the real secret to success in gardening is not perfection, it is consistency, small actions repeated every day. And if you can avoid these mistakes and stay consistent, your garden will not just survive, it will start to thrive. And once that happens, everything changes. Now imagine this: instead of feeling confused every time your plants start to struggle, you actually understand what is happening inside your garden. You walk outside, and instead of guessing, you know exactly what your plants need. You check the soil and water with confidence. You look at the leaves and immediately understand the signals your plants are giving you. And slowly, everything starts to change. Your plants look greener, stronger, and more alive. New leaves begin to appear. Growth becomes faster and more stable. And for the first time, you feel like you are in control of your garden, not the other way around. And that shift changes everything, because now gardening no longer feels frustrating or complicated. It starts to feel simple, calm, and even enjoyable. You begin to notice small wins every day: a new leaf, a stronger stem, a plant that looks healthier than before. And those small wins build real confidence. And over time, those small changes turn into real results. You harvest your first leaves. You see your plants producing food, and you realize that growing your own food is not something difficult. It is something you can actually do. And once you reach that point, you stop doubting yourself and start expanding your garden and growing more plants, trying new things, and turning a small beginning into something powerful. Because now you are not just trying to grow plants, you are actually succeeding, and that is where everything truly changes. If this video opened your eyes to what might really be going wrong in your garden, then make sure you subscribe and stay connected, because this channel is all about helping beginners grow their own food step by step in the simplest and most practical way. And before you leave, there is one thing you need to understand: avoiding mistakes is powerful, but choosing the right plants from the beginning can make your entire journey 10 times easier. And that is exactly what I am going to show you in the next video, where I break down the best beginner plants you should start with, so you do not waste time, effort, or space on the wrong ones. And trust me, this one decision alone can completely change your results. So click on the next video now, and let us keep growing.